3 signs that you are ready to achieve 2000 elo in chess. First, you have at least one opening, both for white and black, that you really understand how to play. It's not like you have memorized like one 20 moves variation and then you have no idea what to do if your opponent plays otherwise. It's more about you know where your pieces belong and you know what is the plan afterwards, how to transition from the opening into the middle game. Here is how I play, how I go about it. First, you need to develop all of your pieces. You want to fight for the center. I don't like those fancy openings that are just playing on the side of the board without really creating any problems for the opponent in the center, because who controls the center has so many opportunities, so many chances. And I recommend you play this journeytograndmaster system. It's the one where you develop your pieces like that. You play knight to f3, then you place your bishop to d3, the second one goes to b2. And the idea behind that is that we want to attack. That would be the second sign that you're ready to get to 1000 elo, but let's not go forward too far ahead. First, we need to finish this opening. I like it because it's very flexible, because you don't need to spend a lot of time to be able to play it, and because you know what to do afterwards. My opponent is very strong here, 2200 rated, and let's see what he's coming up. Of course, they can play different stuff, but this is what I like about this opening so much. You don't really care that much. As long as they don't play this move g6. Against g6, this bishop is not that effective, so I prefer to put my bishop on g2. Okay, not that important. The second sign that is so essential if you want to finally break through in chess is that you can find the right plan for you in the middle game and you can execute it the right way. Because most of the people struggle so much with it. Okay, our opponent is actually playing very aggressive here with knight e4. I quite like it. And he doesn't play the move d5. Like our normal plan with knight to e5, the main idea works very well against the d5 move. But he didn't play it, and now if we play knight to e5 too early, he's going to just play d6. So we need to shift our plan. It's not like, yeah, you have this one idea, like for example, knight to e5 in the opening, and you need to execute it no matter what. You don't even look at your opponent's moves. Chess is a tough game. In most of the cases, it does not work like that. Instead, it should be flexible. For example, yes, we have this idea and I don't refuse it. I still want to play for the checkmate potentially. But if my opponent somehow weakened his pawn structure like that and he's not really fighting for the center, then I can use that to my advantage. And that's what I'm trying to do. I still try to bring all of my pieces. Yes, this plan is stuck, so now I need a new one. And how do you find the right plan in the middle game? Well, you always try to combine the strengths of your position and the weaknesses of your opponent's one. You also try to create as many problems for him or her. This is the golden strategy in chess to beat anyone. Because if you don't create any threats, it's going to be so easy for your opponent to play. So his knight was hanging, he takes. Now I have to decide whether I want to take it with a knight or queen. How do you decide stuff like that? Well, you try to think in terms of your plan and in terms of your opponent's plan. My opponent's plan, I think, is to play somewhere here. Whereas my plan, because he played this move f5, is to break through in the center, and so I can attack both here and here. That is why knight x d2, I think, is much better for me. After queen to d2, I wouldn't be able to play the move e4. So I do what's great for my own plan. Now e4 move is ready, it's easy for me to finish the development, and this is why I like this opening so much. You don't want an opening that is tough to play. Even if the engine says it's the best line, and if you do that, you get plus 0.34 advantage. Oh my god, how great that is. No, it's not essential, especially if you're still under 2000. At this point, much more important for you is that you understand how to play the opening and after the opening. Yeah, now the question is, do I play e4 immediately or do I start with rook to e1? I quite like both of the options. But probably if I have my chance, I have to use it, right? Because maybe he's gonna play d5 or something like that, and then e4 would be much more complicated. So if it's possible now, let me just play that, and of course I can play rook to e1 later. You have to maintain the right balance between bringing every single piece to the game. This is essential. Development is the most important thing for you in the opening. Please focus on that religiously. But also at some point you have to take your opportunity, right? To use your momentum. Otherwise, you would give time to your opponent to stabilize everything, and then it's going to be too late. You have lost your opportunity. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm threatening to take. I'm creating a very dark threat. If he takes back, I take it back with the knight. Now I'm ready to bring my rook, and this pawn on e6. Well, that would be always a nightmare for my opponent. He would always need to deal with it. Maybe e5 would be an idea, but I mean, there would always be holes. In chess, pawns never go backwards. So when he played that move f5, that was a commitment. And now I'm trying to punish him for doing that. And this is exactly how you do that. If your opponent is attacking on the side, try to answer in the center. This is the golden principle that is going to win you so many games if you apply it the right way. When you have this strategic idea, it's so much easier for you to play because you don't make random moves. This is what low-rated players are doing. For you, if you want to finally break through in chess, you never make any moves that are not helping you to achieve your strategic plan. In my case, attack in the center and on the king side and try to checkmate my opponent. One exception is when you try to stop your opponent's idea. That is allowed. Everything else, no. Just focus on your strategic idea. Don't waste any time. Time is so important in chess and in our life as well. At some point, of course, you want to open up this bishop when the right time comes. And yeah, maybe my opponent even helps me. If he's going to take, then the diagonal is going to be opened automatically. So right now is the perfect time for me to bring my last piece into the game. In the best case scenario, you always want to bring every single one of your pieces into the game. So we are coming to the third sign that is so important for you if you want to achieve 2000 elo. Every single time when your opponent makes a move, you think, what is the idea behind that move? What he wants to achieve? It's essential on all levels in chess, from beginner till super grandmaster. Of course, you do it on a different level. If you are a beginner, you think, well, one move threat, he plays a5, what he tries to achieve, he attacks my pawn. Is my pawn protected? Yes, it is. So it's not a big deal. When you're more experienced, you think a little bit like a few moves forward, what he wants to achieve. Maybe he wants to take here, so then he can jump later on with his knight. What's going to happen in that case? Can I take that knight? He's going to have a weakness there. How can I exploit that? And the more tough you get in chess, the further you calculate those variations and the better you evaluate the resulting positions. But the sign remains unchanged. If you want to finally break through, finally get to 2000, you have to think at least 40% of all of the time you have in your game on your opponent, his ideas and his dreams. Because chess is a battle of two people, not one. So many amateur players completely forget about that. Have to think on the threats. That's exactly what happens. And I think that I can just take it and change my plan completely, like my entire plan, from trying to give a checkmate to getting this positional advantage playing against this isolated pawn. That happens sometimes. You are focused on one plan, but not always you can be successful with that, right? It also doesn't mean like if my plan is to deliver a checkmate and I don't deliver a checkmate, then I failed with my plan. No, maybe I have won a piece in the process. My opponent needed to defend. That is already a huge success. Or here, to stop my ideas, he needed to agree to this exchange, which gives me this very weak pawn to attack. In fact, I create two threats here. It seems like I'm just winning the pawn straightforward. That is also the good outcome of that checkmating attack, right? So you have the plan, you try to execute it, and even if you haven't given the checkmate, if you haven't achieved your goal per se, you still have won something in the process. That's our goal. Because our opponent is 2200, he's like top 1% of all of the chess players. He's strong, he's trying his best. I also want to potentially exchange those bishops, because it seems like this one is very strong. How do you understand which pieces you exchange? Well, you have to look at your pieces and your opponent's pieces and exchange the best pieces that your opponent has and your most passive pieces. Well, bishop h7 is tempting, like he has a lot of holes, but first of all, I think I can just win the pawn. You don't need to overcomplicate it. If you can grab some material and you don't see how your opponent can punish you for that, then you should use the opportunity, you should use your chance. You're gonna regret it afterwards if you don't. He can just defend if I give him one tempo, and then it's going to be much more complicated for me. So we use our momentum, and our opponent notice what he's doing. He is trying to create counterplay. That is what strong players do when there's some material down. Exactly to help me stop that counterplay, I want to exchange this guy. I think afterwards it's going to be much simpler for me. But first, I think I want to give this check, just so that the king is in the corner. And yeah, maybe in some variations it's going to be important. I'm going to have some back rank mate, who knows. Or at least it's going to be more away from the center, which is normally a nice thing. Now I'm playing bishop e4, I threaten to take, and if he takes, I'm going to centralize my queen. And my plan now changes tremendously from trying to give a checkmate to now getting this material advantage and converting this material advantage into a full point. To do that, you normally need to stabilize the situation first, be very, very careful with your opponent's counterplay. And once you stabilize, then you can go forward and attack once again. For example, some takes on f2, I always have to calculate it, be careful with it. One variation is takes, 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 and if I take with the king, queen d4 check, that would win my rook. I want to avoid that, but thank God I have queen takes, and now I have queen takes e4, and all of those captures would not be a problem for me, because in the end of the day, everything is protected. That is a very good strategy. The fewer pieces you have unprotected, vulnerable, the fewer chances you have to blunder something, to lose one of your pieces. Right now, all of my pieces are protected. My king is pretty solid. Yes, this bishop is keeping an eye on me. That's a bit annoying, but as long as he cannot create any dangerous threats, I'm good to go. And who knows, maybe now I can think, well, not that way, but somehow think about the attack again. The queen and the knight is generally a very good combination to create a lot of attacking ideas. The queen is in the center is great because it's controlling so many squares both in the attack and in the defense. That is why I always like it there. I think rook f5 is great just to avoid all of the problems along this f file. This f2 square is my only weakness, and that's what my opponent is trying to do, trying to attack there. Yeah, he's insisting on creating some problems. I don't like it. Somehow, maybe I have underestimated a bit Like, it's not like there is a big threat. Maybe I can play queen f5. Because if he exchanges, that's very nice for me. You always want to exchange queens if you're some material up and your opponent is attacking, having the initiative. That's gonna help you. Then I can play rook e2 if needed to protect that pawn again, also knight e4. But if he takes here, trying to grab some pawns back, then I have my attack, knight to h5. Threatening checkmate in one. Ah, no. That actually, after queen e5, he has bishop d4. And then I'm gonna just waste time, basically. Well, I can do the same via queen to f4 or queen f3. Maybe queen f4 is the most active. Ah, no, again, that's not a threat. He's protecting that. All right. Then it doesn't work. I have a funny line queen e2. It's based on some tactics. If he takes and I take back, I lose my rook. But the idea is he takes, I take here with a check, and then I take the queen back. In the end of the day, I'm somewhat passive. I don't like it. He can even get to here, and like that's a bit annoying. What else can I do? Maybe I can just start with the move knight h5. Although in this case he can take and play rook f8, and then this f-pawn indeed is very vulnerable. At least he might win the pawn back. Maybe I do play queen f5, bishop d4, and just take the pawn. I'm gonna take here. Then I will be pretty active. Queen e7. Attacking there. Yeah, he's still getting this initiative. I don't like it. You never want to allow your opponent too much initiative. Have another funny line in mind. Queen to b1. Again, offering the queen's exchange. Yeah, but then at the end of the day, this f2 pawn is hanging. Also, it's a move backwards, which I never want to make. But how do I actually solve this problem? It's getting a bit annoying. I think that this move is so far the best one. I want to attack. I want to be as active as possible. If he takes, I have this beautiful move knight h5. So I think he should play that. But here, I can even, like, this bishop would be hanging in some variation, so maybe I can use that. Like even play queen to d5. He cannot take here because the bishop would be hanging. Or if I'm gonna go back to this line, that actually can be a huge improvement because the knight would attack this bishop. So I'm gonna win the tempo. And in such a situation, that might be very, very important. I hope no sacrifices work. This is something you always have to check. But I think I can just take the rook. The rooks would be connected and everything would be fine. By the way, after bishop d4, there is another move. There is queen to e7, immediately threatening to take that guy. Only if he plays here, then I take it. Not sure if it's so better. Okay, he allows me to play knight h5. Not sure, but I like the opportunity to go here. I think this is very good. If he ever takes again, I'm gonna just take it back. There's no danger whatsoever. But you want to bring as many pieces into the attack as possible, and you want ideally to always be in the driver's seat, to be the one creating threats instead of the one dealing with these threats. Because now he needs to go passive and he needs to somehow deal with my threats. His mind is preoccupied with what I want to do, not the other way around. So rook f7 is a logical step to continue, but I have to be careful with the move rook e8. you know, some some puzzle rush tactics appear in my mind with those checkmates. But the good thing is, again, this rook is always protecting. That is very, very helpful. Maybe I have another way, like some fancy lines, rook f6, threatening checkmate, but he can takes, king h7. Seems like he survives. If I take immediately, that's not enough. He's gonna protect. His queen is offside in terms of the defense. I feel like that should be my chance. Just not sure how exactly I execute it. Yeah, seems like rook f7 is the best, because it's in the position to attack as well as in the position to defend. And I do think that as long as I defend the f2 pawn with this rook, it will always take it back if he takes. Otherwise, I don't see any threats. So after rook e8, I might even just take that guy and continue threatening to take on g7. Although the bad thing is he can go back to this diagonal and defend. So maybe I go here instead. By the way, something like knight f6 becomes an idea. Because if he takes, that would be a checkmate, and otherwise I attack that rook. So the more you go into the attack, the more opportunities you create for yourself. That would be a bonus sign that you're always starting thinking with the most active opportunities in chess. Checks, captures, and threats. If there is a great move in your position, then the chance is so huge that it's going to be one of those chances. And no, you don't use this system only in puzzles. It's actually a huge mistake. You should treat your real games as puzzles as well. Okay, so I think queen to c3 is the most challenging move, although he has rook e7. Like if I don't win anything, that would be pretty sad. So maybe I do just take the pawn. Let's see if I have something more dangerous, like sacrificing the queen. I don't think it can work. Maybe queen f5 and knight f6. Threatening checkmate? Many times. And f5 can be very interesting. Maybe he can play like rook f8. And still knight f6. Wow. Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. I'm not sure how he can stop the checkmate. So you see, like those pawns, they don't matter. We don't play pawns, we play chess, and the goal in chess is to deliver a checkmate. All of the pieces and pawns you have in chess, they are just resources for you to achieve the main goal, checkmate. And again, the more threats like that you create, the more difficult it is for your opponent, and he struggles in a time trouble, like here, for example. Maybe bishop d4 solves his problem. Okay, he plays rook e2. Knight f6. Let's see what I'm missing. If he takes with the rook, like any moves that are not checks, I'm just delivering a checkmate. So the only thing that can be a problem is a check. But then I just go away with the king. And there are no checks to follow. I think... queen to c2 is his idea. That stops the checkmate. But remember, I also attack that guy. That is important. Okay, I have a choice here also to take the bishop, but I don't like it. I think king to h1 is more promising. Playing for the checkmate. If he plays queen to c2, I'm gonna just take it. Then I'm gonna take that guy, and then in the end of the day, I can even win his bishop. I win pretty much all the material. And my back rank is still protected. So that is exactly your perfect recipe to beat anyone in chess. In this playlist, you can learn everything you need to know about this magic opening for white to beat anyone under 2000 ELO.